Welcome back for another video. What are the best FPL managers doing in Gameweek 5? Who are they buying and selling? Which chips have they got active? Let's get straight into it. Milko is the top ranked expert. He's 111k currently, and that really shows how condensed the higher ranks are, because he scored 61 points, which doesn't sound too bad, but that was a red arrow from 20k, top 20k to just outside 100k. Of course, the ranks are always very squashed close together at the start of any FPL season, and it does take a long time for it to spread out. It can make these early game weeks particularly exciting though, because one huge game week where most of your team delivers can really see you fly up the ranks instantly. Maybe this is your week. The average overall score last week was 63, and it was 66 among the experts. Tom Kidd got the highest score of 101 points. So have a look at that. This week 81% are planning to roll, and you could probably guess why. 13% are making one transfer, 3% are making two, and one manager's making 3 transfers. 2 experts have been forced into activating the wildcard. We'll have a look at a Gameweek 5 wildcard from one of them in a minute. But first, let's have a look at who the most bought and sold players are this week. Given the lower transfer volume, we'll also talk a bit about where they're aiming to invest with those rolled transfers. There are a few teams that look like the standout sensible investments from Gameweek 6. But this week it's Semenyo who's the most bought player. 7% are buying the Bournemouth winger. A lot of people have been coining him this season's Mbeumo. That may or may not be the case, but I think let's not get ahead of ourselves. First of all, he's not on free kicks or corners. He did of course take a penalty last match, but again that was without Kluivert on the pitch. What happens if or when Kluivert is back in the 11 and starting regularly? That all aside though, he is a great pick, make no mistake. João Pedro, Dewsbury Hall, Evan Nilsson and Palmer are all joint second, but just 2% buying them. Brilliant strike from Palmer, first time in a Champions League against Bayern. He makes it look so easy, doesn't he? He did go on to get a second goal, but it was marginally offside. Dewsbury Hall's an interesting one. He's actually my favourite of the 5mm mids. Playing as a 10 for Everton at the end of the day, and he's got Grealish to his left and Dyer to his right. He's on some set pieces as well. There are the likes of Stack from Leeds, Sarr from Spurs, Xhaka, Sunderland for the defensive contributions of course, but they do feel like lower ceiling picks. We've already seen Dewsbury Hall hit a double digit return in fact. One manager's buying King from Fulham. He's of course 4.5mm, the cheapest starting midfielder there is, but he did come off at 59 minutes last match, which is not what you want, and that could be a recurring theme, those early subs. Strand Larsen is the most sold player, just 3% selling though. In fact, Gu and Vert's also being sold by the same number here. The majority of Vert's owners, I should emphasise, are holding on to him for one more week. The same is true for Rodgers and Watkins. As poor as these guys have been, they do have a good fixture in front of them. So yeah, 81% are planning to roll, and that's with a view to targeting some of the fixture swings in Gameweek 6 and 7. The 4 main teams are Arsenal, Bournemouth, Chelsea and Man City. So list a few players for you. We've got Raya, Gabriel, Gyökeres from Arsenal. We've got Petrovic, Senesi, Semenyo, Evan Nilsson from Bournemouth. From Chelsea there's Palmer, Enzo, Caicedo, João Pedro. And then from City, Donnarumma, Vardiol and Foden potentially. And then Haaland of course. There's so many appealing players from Gameweek 6, hence the rolled transfers. We're going to see a significant number of transfers spent next week and a huge number of wildcards active, I can guarantee that as well. So make sure you subscribe for a wildcard special coming next week. There's always a lot of potential to roll and then wildcard, because when you activate a wildcard you're planning long term, and you basically never want to plan to spend a transfer after wildcarding. And that means in theory you should be able to roll further for a couple of weeks after a wildcard, which is a very powerful position to be in. Let's say you wildcard with 2 or 3 free transfers, you might be able to get up to 4 or 5. So there are a couple of wildcards active right now, and there's a huge 16% bench boost in this week. FPL World Champion from 2024, Jonas and Låbakk, is one of those managers looking to bench boost this week, and his team is Dubravka, Porro, Anderson, Senesi, Paqueta, Jorginho, Bruno, Gyökeres, Watkins and Mateta, and his bench is Sanchez, Anderson, Murillo and Esteve. Here's what Jonas had to say. As of now, it looks like I'm going to use my bench boost in Gameweek 5, which pretty quickly emerged as a great option for wanting to use your bench boost. However, recently, with doubt on Murillo's injury and rotation talks of Mateta, I'm not quite sure anymore. I still think the bench boost looks fine, but ideally I wouldn't want any uncertainties in my team the week that I play the chip. I also don't want to spend any transfers this week, as I want to get Haaland in my team for Gameweek 6 with 2 free transfers. If I were to make a transfer this week, then that wouldn't be possible. I will therefore tightly follow both the Murillo and Mateta situation and then decide if I will go ahead and play the bench boost. It could be nice getting rid of the chip this early and slowly downgrading my bench / strengthening my starting 11 as well, although it's already pretty cheap. I think the games for Gameweek 5 is nice for a bench boost in my case, and if not Gameweek 5 then I'm looking at 8 as a nice opportunity to get rid of the chip. Adriel is one of those who's on a very different chip strategy. He's got the Wildcard active this week, one of 2 that have activated it. His team is Dubravka, Van der Ven, Chalobah, Senesi, Kudus, Palmer, Semenyo, Gakpo, João Pedro, Voltemada and Haaland. And his bench is Raya, Gabriel, Mukiel and Dewsbury Hall. So basically he's benching double Arsenal defence just this week and then they're permanent starters for him. I'm wildcarding in Gameweek 5 because almost my entire team isn't good enough going forward. I had triple Forest, I had Rodgers, Wirtz, injured Cunha, etc. It was too many issues and therefore I've decided to wildcard slightly earlier than planned. My wildcard team is planned for a bench boost in either Gameweek 7 or Gameweek 8, although I'm leaning towards Gameweek 7. It comes earlier so there's less chance of unforeseen circumstances such as injuries, and Gameweek 8 does come after an international break too. I also think the Gameweek 7 bench boost is a little overlooked, as most people are targeting Gameweek 8 where Leeds play Burnley. In Gameweek 7, Burnley play Villa, who are struggling to score, and Sunderland play a Man United team in poor form, so it's not the end of the world. I have Voltemada as a differential. He has very high potential and he could become the new Isak for Newcastle, plus Viss is out injured still, so I'm not too worried about him being a minutes risk. Thanks very much gents and best of luck with the chips. Let's have a look at who the top all-time managers are captaining this week then. It's quite an extensive list, but this week Salah is by far the number 1 pick, 84% of captain in Salah. Beyond that we're talking Semenyo 3%, Watkins, Haaland, Gakpo and Palmer, all just a few percent each, and then a few 1%ers. It took Salah all of 5 minutes to have a goal and an assist to his name in the Champions League versus Atletico Madrid. He was sensational that game. I mean, where was that Salah in the league when we needed him? Anyway, that was kind of a strong reminder, wasn't it, how fast things can change in FPL. Like, all the talk is about buying Haaland in Gameweek 6, but what if Salah puts up a 15 plus pointer against Everton? Do we definitely sell still? I think going both Haaland and Salah is very, very difficult as well. Like, you have to make some pretty major sacrifices elsewhere, whereas Salah plus Palmer or Haaland plus Palmer seems a bit more doable. Anyway, let us know in the comments who your captain is this week. FPL review projections does have Salah leading on 6.8 points, Bruno's on 5.7, Palmer 4.8, and then Gyökeres is on the same, and then just below that we've got Watkins on 4.7, Haaland on 4.6. So onto the experts team for Gameweek 5. How's it shaping up with those transfers, or lack of I suppose. This week it's Sanchez in goal, but that's very much up for debate as well. Like, who do you start between Sanchez and Dubravka? Flip a coin if you've got both. We've got Anderson, Pedro Porro, Munoz and Williams as the back 4, Semenyo, Salah, Bruno in midfield, and then Watkins, João Pedro and Mateta up front. So we've gone 4-3-3 here. It's also really up for debate whether you start Reinders or Esteve over someone in the starting 11. Like, whatever happens before the games, those are genuine 50-50s this week, so do your own assessment on those picks and decide who to start, who you fancy. So Dubravka remains the most owned player, he's at 92%, and Salah in second, 90%. I'm really interested to see what Salah and Haaland's ownership looks like Gameweek 6. Like, Haaland doesn't even make the list right now, and it's a long list. He's at 17% ownership among the experts, which is about half his overall ownership right now. João Pedro and Van der Ven are 2 players that the overall player base like more than the top managers do. The far right column is the one to pay particular attention to every week. The bigger the number, the bigger the opportunity really. Like, which players are the overall player base sleeping on that the top all-time managers really like? You know, like Dubravka and Esteve, for example, huge differences there. You don't need those guys often, but Gameweek 2, they kept the clean sheet the rare time that they were needed. Those macro decisions do add up massively over a season and do equate to lots of points by Gameweek 38. Another one, Fulham's Anderson, 46% higher owned by the experts, 10 points at last game week. Pedro Porro, 44% higher ownership, 3 clean sheets and 4. Now, I should caveat it, there is no guarantee of points, of course. You know, Watkins, prime example of that, but it is one of the many valuable data points in these videos, so keep an eye on those for getting the edge over the rest of the players out there. Final thoughts and tips from the top all-timers then. Here's what they wanted to say to you this week. Alex Sullivan says, this feels like a great week to stay patient and do nothing. I'll be on the moon if Forest and Villa assets I've held on for this long can finally come good before I ship them out in Gaming 8. Matthew Hubbard is thinking of getting the bench boost out of the way, even if it's not the best bench. It says, when considering the bench boost, looking at future weeks, the only place I can see a better bench with my current squad would be Gaming 9. However, so much can change in that time and my team will look very different. I could wait till later this half of the season, but I'm still favouring getting the bench boost out of the way. My bench is Dubravka, Reinders, Richards and Estev. Rohan's got a very interesting fact here. He says, my team is completely crap, but I read that as it stands, Gameweek 5 is the lowest goals / match projection from market since April 2023, so I genuinely don't think any transfer is worth it this week. Lastly, Forza Inter says, I'm a steely veteran middle school teacher whose students recently discovered that I play FPL rather seriously. On Sunday night, one of the little devils sent me an untitled email at 10 PM. Upon reading it, I saw only a giant screenshot of a Gameweek 3 team, aka GW5, which had bagged 86 points, 60 more than my 70 expert points. All that war's now been declared. I've sold Rodgers for Semenyo and I've failed said student on this week's quiz. And I annotated with the following message: if you beat me again in FPL, I'll send you back a year. Game on, kid. You've tickled the dragon. Thanks very much everyone for watching. See you soon for the next one.